Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
It's a good evening to you, all our viewers. My name is Numan Tumuhimbise, and our Face of the Nation show streams live on all our social media handles. That's the Alternative Dig Talk, and on Facebook, and also Alternative Dig Talk on YouTube. As we always pledge to you, we bring to you senior citizens who share with us their expertise when it comes to human rights, rule of law, governance, to mention but a few. We are glad today that we have a senior advocate of High Court by the names of Counsel Wandera Ogalo. Counsel Ogalo was a CA representative of Bukooli South in Wujiri district in 1993 as Uganda made its constitution. Some people have had issues with the 1995 constitution, but of course he will substantiate on whether or not they erred both in law, in fact, and in history. Counsel Ogalo, say hello to our viewers, and then we shall proceed, sir.
Good afternoon, viewers. Glad to be here and to have something to share with the Norman here. Thank you, sir.
Counsel Ogalo, Face the Nation is our show every Friday at 5 p.m. Some people have had issues with the CA delegates, saying that most likely there were so many errors that were made in the constitution that you made. And they mentioned that you gave the president a lot of powers as the delegates. What is your take on to that?
Yes, I've heard about this accusation of view that the president in Uganda is too powerful, and that it was a mistake of the Constituent Assembly to make a very powerful president who then makes it difficult to have good governance. I do not personally think so, because the Constituent Assembly was alive to creating a very powerful president. We had already had that problem in the past of having very powerful presidents controlling everything. So the Constituent Assembly sought to put in place mechanisms which would check the presidential power. Whether it has worked is a different matter. But examples of control of the president or his power, or ministerial appointments, judicial appointments, commission appointments, are subject to approval
Parliament.
by Parliament. That was intended to share appointment powers between the President and Parliament. So the President does not have absolute power in the appointments of all these big offices. Electoral Commission, Human Rights Commission, all of them. He shares the power. That was supposed to control him by having somebody else share power with him. Whether Parliament does its work properly in receiving these appointments is a different thing. But you cannot blame the Constituent Assembly because it gave
The President much powers.
that it gave him much powers. It divided the powers. Two, it decentralized, it introduced decentralization, which we didn't have, and shared power between the center and the districts. In the Constitution, a lot of power was initially given
Central government.
to central government, and then later on divided with the devolution of power, so that certain things the President would not have power over in the local government. So you remember that even the appointment of cows was originally a matter for the districts. So decentralization was the means of controlling power. The fact that later on this power was pulled back to the center cannot be blamed on the Constituent Assembly. Blame on the amendments which were brought into Parliament to reduce the powers of the local government. That is number two of control. Number three, most presidents grow very powerful because they stay there for very long. They amass power over a long period. So what did the Constituent Assembly do?
Put time limits at the
It
time.
put a time limit, said 10 years.
And the age limit as well.
But by the time the president is beginning now in the 7th, 8th year to amass power, it has ended.
Yeah.
So there was no error in the Constituent Assembly.
On to that very concerned council, you see, you have already preempted me to even ask you what would have been my third also question. But this is to say you put the term limit and age limit. People still accuse you and others. Why didn't you entrench those articles?
They are right. On that one, I'll concede.
Okay.
On that one, I'll concede. But try to give some justification. But I concede. But I'll begin with the justification.
Yeah.
We didn't think
He would,
that anybody would think about that. We didn't, frankly. There was so much goodwill in the country.
Yeah.
There was so much trust in the leadership of President Museveni. Nobody dreamt that he would amend the Constitution. If you look in the president's campaign manifesto of 2001, there's a statement there, I am seeking my second and last term. I'm quoting, and the last term. So that was the thinking at the time that nobody would think of.
Does that mean you had a lot of trust in him and the entire establishment?
Yes, we had a lot of trust. Maybe we were naive. If we had not been naive, we would have entrenched that provision. And how would we have entrenched it? For example, we would have put there that in order to amend this provision, you will need 3/4 of the district councils to approve.
It comes bottom up.
Yes. Then even though in those district councils, they would have to have voted by a majority of another 3/4.
To make it so
very
hard
difficult. And then after that, put it to the referendum, to the people for referendum.
Over three prerequisites.
Parliament, local government, referendum. If we had not been naive and put those there, it would not have been removed. I'm very sure of that. Nobody would think of trying to surpass those obstacles.
So going back to the Constitution now that you participated in the making, it's kind of hypothetical, but of course I would throw it to you being an advocate. If you had an opportunity to be the Ogalo of 1993, would you still hold the same views about the constitution that you made then?
No.
Substantiate.
I would not.
What would you change?
First of all, there were some very, what I would call very polarizing provisions.
Like?
Where we split, like a form of governance. I think we did not do justice to form of government, and we were very split. And many of us may have misunderstood the concept of federalism.
Which people still accuse you for having, of having thrown it away and
yes,
adopted what it was.
Yes, because you see, a federal system is also another way of curtailing power
the central power.
We thought that decentralization would substitute for federalism. But looking back now, I think we made a mistake.
Does that mean that if you were in position to go back to 1993, you would now vote for or rather support the federal system vis-a-vis decentralization?
No question about it. No question about it. I would have definitely voted for federalism if we went back to 1993. Now, we're looking at what has happened, looking at it with hindsight. I see things which a federal system would have saved us from. So really, that is one. Number two, the other mistake we made was to tie down the political parties, to refuse political parties
until years later, 2005.
Until 2005. Now, what does that mean? That for all that period, political parties could not develop, could not grow. So many of the weaknesses you see in today's political parties is a result of not they having had time to grow. And not that only alone, but also the fact that there has always been hostility to political parties in this country. 1969, we banned them and imprisoned the President General of DP. 1971,
the same.
He came and said, now even you, UPC, all of you go.
Follow the other one.
Follow the other one. After the fall of Amin in 1979, we told umbrella, forget political parties. So they briefly came back in 1980. Then in 1986, President Museveni comes, he bans them. So the political parties have not been able to grow. That is why we see to them as being very weak. We have been hostile to them. And because of, and then in the Constituent Assembly, we made it worse by constitution, by constitutionalizing the movement system. So that is an area which if I went back, I would do.
At the time, were you in support that you banned the political parties?
At the time, I supported the movement system.
What was your justification?
My justification at that time was that the country was very divided. That we had come out of a war in the 70s.
You wanted a unifying factor.
We wanted a unifying
movement,
factor,
literally.
And so we reasoned the movement will be able to unify us, and then along the way, we'll be able to go back for political parties when we are unified. But what happened? How did the movement operate? We saw that it operated the same way.
Like any other, like a political party.
Like a movement, like a one-party system. So definitely, I'm among one of those who made mistakes in the Constituent Assembly in supporting the movement system of governance.
Any other matter? We have now raised it too. Federal political parties. Any other that you think could have been done better?
There was another matter which came up, but it could not succeed because we had adopted the movement system, which people should look up at now. But I remember very well the late Dr. Semogerere raising the question of proportional representation
Yeah, sure.
as a means when you go political party. Shouldn't you really have proportional representation?
Kindly make it more understandable to our viewers.
A
Proportional
proportional
representation,
representation, to try and make it very easy, is that when you vote for political parties, not individuals as such. You vote political parties, and then depending on the strength of each political party, you divide the seats in parliament according to the number of votes each political party has got. Therefore, if for example, NRM gets 50% of the votes, they will then take half the seats
in parliament.
That way you have more representation. The weak political parties also have a representation
with their ideas on the same table, serve the country at large.
So you are in a position to listen to more divergent views than where you have this
the winner takes it all.
Winner takes it all.
Onto that very issue, Council. Some people still get confused, and maybe you will help us guide them. You have political parties in operation. Definitely, with what you mentioned there, it is as if though it would be a ballot paper with simply a political party, not someone's face. Does this also kind of confuse people that you have political parties, but you also have someone who's an individual candidate on the same ballot, and therefore bringing about a certain candidate A getting some votes here, but also there are other candidates in the same party getting less votes. In your view, do you think even when political parties came back, people understood them?
I think people understood them.
What brings about that then?
I think people understood the political parties. Remember that we had them and they had been thrown out in 1986. So there was a number of Ugandans who still remembered them from 1986. Remember, we're making the constitution we went back to political parties in 2006. 6 years. Yeah, but it's 20 years, but there was still a number of people. Those who were 20 were 40, those who were 40 were 60. So there was still a number of people who had experienced the political parties in the 80s. The problem, as I see it, was not that the people did not understand the political parties. The problem, as I see it, is that the movement
system
swallowed what would have been the political parties. Then the political parties were demonized. You see, these are the people who are coming to divide us. And remember that the movement had structures up to the grassroots. NRM appropriated them.
Adopted them even when the political parties were open. So they incorporated
them into NRM political party. You get it?
So literally they took already the entire foundation of the whole country.
And
fused it with the
party. So in that way, you look at, you may conclude and say maybe people didn't understand political parties. No, they understood. But the NRM deliberately took over the structures over the movement and then made them NRM, and therefore made it difficult for political parties to mobilize.
Start from scratch.
Then of course there was other small things. Political parties are funded by their members. They are the ones who pay subscription and so on. And the political parties in 2006 started the thing of selling party cards and so on. Yes. But what did the NRM do?
Gagged them.
NRM went and said, why are people making you pay for cards?
Ours are free.
So when political parties went out, people were saying, but you people, you see me, you have a problem. Why
are you selling us cards?
Why do you want can give us for free? Why for you? Why are you selling? So right from the beginning, political parties have had an uphill task. It is not that people have not understood them. They have had an uphill task. And after one of these elections, I think it was 2016, after one election when the president said opposition parties will be no more in the next election. So it is not that political parties are not understood by the people, but deliberately political parties have been made to fail.
I have this for you, Council. Why I want you to substantiate onto that very message is that you will find in, let's say, Bukooli South Constituency, it is possible that the president, Mr. Museveni, can get, let's say, 1,000 votes, for instance, as a presidential candidate of NRM. But in the same constituency, a parliamentary candidate of NRM gets like 500 votes. It takes us back. If someone is voting NRM as a political party, why would they vote Mr. Museveni on top and then fail an NRM candidate?
Because, in my view, what happens there is that there are really many factors. You may find that in some places the president is doing better than the MP because the government structures, the resident district commissioner, RDCs, the DSOs, the police, they're all outside there campaigning for the president. So obviously you will find in those areas, it differs, it moves from place to place, you will find that the president will do better. The other reason is that it's about individuals. The individual merit thing, individual merit thing is still
stuck in people's minds.
Yes. You talk of political parties, but they are saying, for me, I prefer this person because of this and this and that. You look at Busoga, my region, in the 2020 elections. Nope swept the whole of it. Nope won all, I think President Museveni won in only one. And yet when you come to parliamentarians, you find that they voted for NRM. NRM or MPs. So there are many factors. There is that individual merit. There is, of course, the fact that people have different issues with their MPs or with their candidates. And all that is because we are not campaigning on issues.
Yeah, it's not issue-based campaign.
It is never an issue-based campaign. So at the end of the day, you end up with that.
We go back to the constitution. Those are three also errors. Which other error will you have corrected?
I think now you tell me what you think. For me, I've told you what I think are errors. You tell me what you think.
No, some people, again, it goes back to, you talked of the powers that you did your best to ensure that the president could not appoint any bigger, couldn't make any bigger appointments without the approval of parliament. Now that takes us back to the doctrine of separation of powers as a doctrine in itself. Do you think what you intended to achieve is achieved as we speak?
No, definitely not.
What do you...
The doctrine of power, separation of power, the doctrine of separation of powers, for viewers, to try and simplify it, is like a cooking pot. You put it on 3 stones in order to cook properly. These stones support it, the pot. The pot, right. If one stone is very high, it bends very high.
Can even pour the food.
Precisely. So these stones must be at equal level in order to balance the food and you cook it out. So these stones are the judiciary, executive, and the legislature. They are supposed to balance each other. None is supposed to be stronger than the other. That's how you will cook the food properly. What has happened now is that the executive has taken over the others. So you have a very bent pot with some of my fish beginning to seep out. Yes. So the doctrine of powers, the doctrine of separation of powers has not worked. The executive has had become too dominant, and the parliament has become too subservient But in order for us to have a proper democracy and for the things to work properly, they must be at the same level.
When are those precedents that you, with your expertise, that you would mention with the proven record that this is when I saw that the presidency was taking the powers over the other two?
The very first meeting, the very first sitting we had in the 6th Parliament, the first motion was, we had put in the constitution that the president can only appoint a maximum of 21 cabinet ministers.
Yeah.
The very first time we sat, there was a motion by government to allow the president to increase more.
What did you do?
We did so. People started seeing themselves as, if we
potential
don't ministers,
yeah, we would have some slots.
He will have some slots. If they're only 21, I might not
as
be.
early as 6th
Parliament. As early as 6th Parliament. So that's how.
What did the populace do, or any other people, in regards to that?
No. Some members, like Honorable Ben Wacha, opposed it there and then. Said you cannot negate what we have just done the previous year. There was good reason, and Ben Wacha was also in a Constituent Assembly. Said there is good reason why we said the president must be limited to this. Now that was the beginning of the executive catching and getting Parliament under it, being subservient. So that has continued. That has continued. Parliament tried to fight back by bringing its independence and so on, but from then on I saw things just going down. And of course the other issue, which is important, has been the use of money. You remember that the 7th Parliament, to amend the Constitution to remove the 2-term limit, MPs were paid money, 5 million shillings. So use of money has also weakened, because it is the executive which has the granary. Now, if it is that it can use the granary to make the other institutions weakened and subservient to them, it does so. So that's where the doctrine of separation of powers has gone.
Would you attribute such, could we call it a weakness or otherwise, to the leadership of Parliament or otherwise? Because why? Let's talk about...
We are weak. As human beings, we are weak. We can't run away from that. We have things we want, we have things we crave. So if you do not have if you don't have that strong character, you will cave. That's why people in the judiciary, in the legislature and the judiciary are seen as having caved to the executive. That's why the commissions, like Human Rights Commission, Electoral Commission, are seen not to be protecting human rights, but instead caving into the executive.
How independent is the judiciary, where you serve literally, of course, as an officer of court? We have had some bit of precedents where Parliament has given in. How independent is the judiciary where you serve as an officer of court?
It is difficult to generalize. It's really difficult to generalize. What I can say is that there was the executive did do something which may have frightened off the judiciary. After the referendum decision, the president said the judiciary cannot decide matters of destiny of this country. He thought that for them to do these cases of stealing of chicken and goats, how can they get themselves in
political matters? Into
political matters? And then you recall there was even a demonstration against the judiciary at the City Square because because the Constitutional Court had made a decision. I think this had a chilling effect on judges.
Specific individuals, not the entire institution.
Not the institution. Not the institution. I think basically the fundamentals for an independent judiciary still exist. I think the fundamentals for an independent judiciary still exist.
If we had a scorecard of 10, how many would you give them? in as far as their independence is concerned.
Do your research on that.
Okay, our viewers, we are with Council Wandera Ogalo, very quite interesting gentleman, of course, a senior citizen, legislator once a legislator at East African Legislative Assembly in Arusha some years ago, and an advocate of High Court, a human rights advocate, to mention but a few. Council, I know you know that you put 10 years as your yardstick to make a constitutional review, let alone what happened.
In the Constitution, what we made for to be reviewed was really the question of special interest groups. Women, youth, army, and so on. We wrote there that every 10 years would review that provision.
Not as a whole, not the entire Constitution?
No, it was on that. And the reason for that was that these special interest groups are with stopgap measure. They are not supposed to be permanent. We are supposed to go back to one man, one vote, or one woman, one vote. But now, if, for example, you are aged 18 and you are working in a sugar factory in Wairaka, you have your youth MP. If you are disabled, you have a disabled MP.
Then you have a workers MP.
You have workers MP. You have a woman MP. So you have 5 MPs. That is over-representation. So that was supposed to have been, that has not been done.
What's your view now? What would you suggest?
My view now is...
Has it been abused? Or
it has been abused because, for example, youth. Why are we still having...
Youth MPs? Youth
MPs. Look at the last parliament.
Aren't you becoming anti-young people?
No. I'm actually helping them. Look at this parliament, which is now expiring. Almost 25%
are young people.
Are below 40. They are younger people. So they have already achieved what we intended for them to achieve in the Constituent Assembly, that with the time they will become a mainstream. So you don't need them anymore. You don't need them anymore. You're not anti-young, but that is the fact.
In regards to, again, these institutions in Parliament, or rather in the Constitution, there is what is very important in fighting corruption. That's the IGG's office and its establishment. Do you find it very, very strong as you intended, or as is in the Constitution, and therefore it can, in your view?
No. I think it will be necessary to revisit the appointment process. I think what we put there, approval by Parliament, was too weak. Yes, I think
how would you have it done?
You would have to have public hearings.
Like it is done in Kenya, like most of the big offices?
Yes. In terms of submission of names, you'll have to involve civil society organizations and so on to make those submissions. Not for it to come from the president alone and then it is approved. It has to be something which the country sees it
which can be owned by citizens.
Correct. Then you'll have these commissions truly accountable to the people. As they are now, they are really accountable to the president, because we failed in putting in place mechanisms which would ensure that they are actually answerable to the people and not to the executive. So a public hearing where you can walk into Parliament and say, don't appoint this one, he's a thief, he stole this and this and that.
This is the proof.
This have a proof here. That's what will make sure we have proper appointees.
Yeah, in some of our coming minutes, before we cross to Arusha, of course, for you to give us an insight what happened there, I want you to help us understand the Bill of Rights, Chapter 4. You gave it your time, and in fact, some time ago, while interacting with the Council Wakafozi, he said that is what makes the Constitution in particular, and that's what makes a country. Chapter 4, which you gave your time. What has failed? Why isn't it, to the public, it's like it's not respected?
What has failed really comes back to what we have been discussing. The implementation of Chapter 4. Definitely there is no will. If you really intend that people enjoy their rights, the government would be at the forefront of facilitating you to enjoy your rights. And the thing, but you see it every day. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. You see how police is going down on suppressing political parties when they want to meet and so on, assembly and so forth. So I think that there is a lack of political will to allow these rights, which are inborn. They don't belong to government, but government behaves as if they are the owners of human rights. They are not the owners. So until we have people who believe in human rights and that they are inherent and that people should enjoy them, you run into this kind of trouble. And you see, the human rights are actually which makes a society grow. People innovate. People innovate because of those human rights. People, younger people, you're talking about younger people, they wanted to have, to do a lot of things, but they can't do because you've cut off the internet. What do you expect?
You mentioned internet, but I'll reach there. Let me ask you something. I know you have been very key in terms of wanting to promote and or seek for amendments, especially with the electoral laws. What do you think would be more suitable in this era in terms of electoral laws?
I think electoral laws, you'd have to begin with the Electoral Commission. That's why it all rotates. If you don't get it right with the Electoral Commission, the rest is just, well, you are just moving in circles. So there is a need to put in place mechanisms which ensure that the Electoral Commission is actually independent. Without it being independent, we'll continue in this thing of claiming we are having elections when we are really not having elections. There is no way you can convince most Ugandans now that we actually have elections in this country. We do not. And the basic is to amend the Constitution to provide for mechanism of how we reach an independent electoral commission. That is important, and the method of appointment is critical. In Kenya, under the Kenyan Constitution, the president has almost no power over
Electoral Commission,
who is going to be appointed in the electoral commission. It is mainly between civil society organizations and the parliament. So even as the electoral commissioners are seated there in Kenya, they know the president has no hold over them. So until we have amendments which ensure a free and fair, an impartial electoral commission, we are moving in circles, and we are unlikely to have free and fair elections in this country, especially where the presidency is concerned.
Okay, good weeks ago, the NRM literally celebrated its 40 years in power. And also a week or so later, they celebrated 45 years of Tarehe Sita. Is this day in particular, even if we highlight 26th January 1986, 40 years later, do you think in your view it's worth celebrating with what took them to the bush? The 10-point program.
I think if you are to do that, you have to measure why somebody went to the bush, or why somebody says he went to the bush. 10-point
program.
We go. Now you go to the 10-point program.
Vote rigging.
Look at them, and then you make a decision. You gauge.
And juxtapose.
You juxtapose what is happening today with the reasons in the 10-point program, and if you find that they have been achieved, then you must say.
You are a senior advocate here, Council, and a senior leader. What's your view?
My view that it has failed.
Completely?
Not completely, but in certain areas definitely has failed. In an area, the main thing why we had people going to the bush to fight was that the elections were rigged, that they were not free and fair. How many Ugandans believe today that you have free and fair elections in this country? One of the things in the 10-point program is we want to bring back democracy. We want to end extrajudicial killings. You are taking younger people on the streets every day in drones. They are disappearing them. And you are telling me you wanted to end extrajudicial killing and the state terror. And you are doing this yourselves today, and you want to tell me that I should judge them as having been achieved? You talk of unity. Unity is there in the 10-point program. Very good points, by the way. Very good points, the 10-point program.
Isn't our country united?
I think it is even more divided than it was before. And unfortunately, it is something we must work on. The danger that I see now is people starting to talk region, trying to talk tribal, things which had taken the back seat. Really, from 86, we were making progress in the area of unity.
Now you say it's gone back.
Now I see it sliding back. That is that initial thing we got. I don't see it.
On to that very matter, rather, if someone asked you without any form of prejudice, what would be Uganda's problem? Okay, at least the three leading problems that we have in this country.
You see, just where I have ended, for us to make progress, we must have unity. We must have.
So one of our three problems is disunity.
Disunity. You have that sense of belonging, then people will automatically
embrace
the programs which are coming, the workings of government. They will engage and so on.
Where do you think our country is headed to in the next 5 years? Now that we know that the president-elect is from NRM, that means NRM in its form will have 45 years of governance.
Well, I think we'll continue the way we have been doing. We'll continue with a parliament where members run to State House in Entebbe to discuss what they should do in the parliament. We will still have the Army Court trying us and locking us up. I think the next 5 years will be more like what it is now.
Oh, okay. Now, you know what? Remaining means let me first take you. Let me first fly you to Arusha, where you were as a legislator in the East African Parliament. Going by what is on paper, there is a lot of good work on paper, and you had a lot of gestures, if I may say, as 3 countries back in the day, having those open borders, of course in courts, and of course we have had now East African passport and the rest. What is very important that people were waiting for is the economic integration and political integration. During your time there, what failed it? Okay, what failed it is 2: economic integration, having one currency, and having one president, for say.
I think the President Museveni, President Mkapa, and President Moi were really committed to the integration process. But I think that the bureaucrats, from what I observed, the bureaucrats were really dragging their feet in this issue. They were not ready for it. When
you mention bureaucrats, in particular, okay, who are those? When you have the political will, you have the 3 presidents.
You see, there is what they call the coordination committee in Arusha, in the Constitution. It is composed of permanent secretaries. That is the civil service of East Africa. You are taking the civil service of 3 different countries, now 7 different countries, and you are making them the topmost civil service policy-making body. Not policy, but implementers of policy. How does that work? How do you expect that permanent secretary in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi will see things the same way. They are coming from different backgrounds. They are coming from countries with different priorities. How do you think that they will be able to push the integration process? Politics, political level, you have what we call the Council of Ministers. That is the executive in Arusha. Yeah. They are borrowed ministers from partner states. How do you expect to have, when you don't have your own ministers, you are borrowing ministers and you are saying these are our cabinet?
Yeah.
Yeah. The original East African community had their ministers.
Independent of their states.
Independent of the states. Now you are having
the nominees.
Yes, even judges, you borrow from the countries. So how do you expect that kind of community to grow when it is dependent on bureaucrats and the ministers and the judges from partner states who have different beliefs, different backgrounds, different cultures, and so on? It is difficult. When you appoint ministers, cabinet ministers, like in the last one, particularly for East Africa, you will start to make progress. Politically, you must also be at par.
But as parliament, as a parliamentarian there, did you people make any moves to have that solved?
Yeah, we did. We did even pass a law where, for example, we said in terms of negotiations with the EU, with outside, we will have one delegation of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania at the time, negotiating with the EU, with America, one delegation. The law was passed. In fact, the presidents had directed it. We were only implementing a law which the president had directed. The law was passed by our parliament. It was assented to by the president. It was never implemented by the Council of Ministers.
Who checks the Council of Ministers in the event that
it is supposed to be the summit, which meets once every year.
you see, Council, with how you sound, you want to make people think, okay, you may at some point make people think like East African community is more or less a joke, like, because now a summit sits once a year and supposed to check on the Council of Ministers in regards to implementation. So in the event that, okay, it has met and everything has failed, what is your role as East African Community Legislative Assembly?
At the East African Legislative Assembly, your biggest role is to make law.
And stop there. About implementation?
No. Even going out, representation. Yeah. And when I was in the East African Parliament, we used to go out to move in all the three countries, educating the people about it, telling the people what is good about it, and so on. So the East African Parliament has a big role. It can still play a very big role. Actually, it can help the executive, because for me, I believe the executive, at least when I was in that parliament, the presidents were well-meaning, but I believe that the partner states, the bureaucrats in the partner states, right from the PSs, permanent secretaries, their hearts were not in it, and we couldn't go far.
What do you think would have made their hearts away from it?
Well, the different priorities. Different priorities. This permanent secretary is busy thinking about this road from Kampala to Gulu. You are telling him you need you are telling him a road from Arusha to Nairobi. Different priorities.
In our remaining minutes, I want to refer to a conversation, literally more or less the same interview, with some other scholar, Professor Piero Lumumba, over the same. And his view at a time, I think it's a year or so ago, about the East African community. He was of the view that it was fair enough to first of all deal with the first three countries, they concretize what indeed East African community meant before the adoption of the rest of the countries. And he was particular to mention a country like Congo, DRC, of course, and also South Sudan, saying that they have internal conflicts that they could, or that were likely rather, to import into already, linking East African community. What is your view?
I would fully agree with him.
It was too early for you to adopt to bring...
The treaty itself lays a benchmark of how you join the community.
Was it abused?
Very much so, because those benchmarks, when you see how they were, things like a democracy, things like a governance, they are there. But those benchmarks are not followed. So when Lumumba says we hurried,
yeah, to bring
he's
Congo
very right.
and Burundi and South Sudan on board.
And look here, there are 4 factors, 4 pillars for the community.
Yeah.
There is the customs union, common market, single currency, then lastly political federation. Now, before you even achieve the first one, you are bringing other countries on board. What are they joining?
We should be asking you who brought them on board. Why did you people bring them on board?
No. The admission, Parliament has nothing to do with admission. That is...
Secretariat?
Not even a secretariat. That is solely in the hands of the president. Yes. Nobody has any power over admission. So if you are to lay blame on these errors in admission, put them at the feet of the president.
As a political scholar, what do you think could have convinced the presidents to admit the other countries?
Personal beliefs that the bigger the community, the better for us. Well, those personal beliefs, I think, played a very big role. A huge market. If you have a huge market, you have people where to sell your things and so on. So I think that must have been what is operating those things. But in the process, they missed out. Because how do you admit a country at war?
Maybe to help this very fighting country come at
peace. Then go there and help them come at peace.
Then they come.
You're
applying the doctrine of equity now. Come with clean hands. If you want justice.
Yes. Help them.
Okay.
But you are bringing countries which are still at war against the provision of the treaty, which requires that you must really be at peace with yourself before you join the community.
Okay. We are yet to close in a minute or so, and I want an honest answer from you, Council Wandera. Do you think Uganda can attain a peaceful transition?
No. I don't want to miss it. No.
Why?
You ask me whether I think.
Why do you think we don't have a peaceful transition?
I think so because of what I'm observing. Remember that we have never had a peaceful transition since we got our independence. We always change our leaders through guns and bullets. So to have a peaceful transition, you must have conditions which are different from what we had since independence. And I don't see those conditions.
Do we have the same conditions as we were?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We still have the same conditions where like Rockefeller said, everything rotates around human rights.
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. Once your chapter 4 is wrong, forget about a peaceful transition.
So finally, now that our chapter 4, the Bill of Rights is being abused, where is Uganda headed to?
Well, just look at history. We always crash. We get up, we repair the car, we drive again, we crash, we repair the car, we drive again. That's what is going to happen.
Aren't you becoming a sadist?
No, I'm not a sadist. I'm telling you the truth.
Or even an alarmist?
No. Not if you think I'm an alarmist, give me an example in the last 60 years when you have had a peaceful transition.
You were here before
you tell me. You read
with what I have read, you haven't had one. We are just praying for that we have one.
So if you haven't had, if you've never had a peaceful transition, why do you think you will have one this time? What is special? What is different today? which was not there in the past, which can now tell you will have a peaceful transition? Tell me just one. Then I say, yes, there is that possibility. Then if I'm being an alarmist, I will agree with you. The conditions and the circumstances which we saw around how we changed our governments still exist today.
What's your view in regards to General Muhoozi's seemingly preparedness to succeed the father?
You see,
or positioning himself?
You see, General Muhoozi, like any Ugandan, has that right if he wants to be president. He has that right to seek to become a president. Just like no man can also want to seek to be a president. The problem, where the problem is that he's doing so in direct contravention of the Constitution. Article 208 is very clear. A soldier will not, under any circumstances, be partisan or take part in these political things. But you now have him having an outfit called, is it PLU, which is in politics, and he's the head of that. Now, why do you think, you who is telling me about being an alarmist, why do you think the Constituent Assembly took its time to write in the Constitution that the army should stay out of politics? Precisely because that is what has prevented us from a peaceful transition. When Dr. Bote sent the army to Lubiri, that was the beginning of bringing the army into politics. That's why in the Constituent Assembly we said one of our biggest problems in this country, why we have never had a peaceful transfer of power, is because of involvement of the army into politics. So I have no problem with General Muhoozi seeking to be president. My problem is that he's pulling the whole UPDF into politics, and we will crash.
Okay. Gentlemen and ladies watching us, I will have to ask Council Wandera Ogalo to have some bit of 40 or so seconds to share with us his closing remarks. And of course, some bit of a way forward. Okay, what do we do? And we close. Will you hear, sir?
Closing remarks.
Yes, sir.
Ugandans are resilient people. They should not lose hope. Even if things are looking very bad, we owe it to future generations to do whatever we can to ensure that we have a good future for future generations. So that obligation on every Ugandan is to try as much as possible to stick to those things which bring us together. And one of the things which brings us together is the Constitution, where we people, elected people, go and make for us a document which will guide us. So we should strive as much as possible to adhere to the Constitution. 2, and the last one, we should forget the pretense that elections are going to help us move forward. What we need now is a national dialogue. Let the parliamentarians come and work, yes, but let there be a body to sit and review. From 1995, we had a constitution which the people said, this is our document. Review it and say, where have we gone wrong? How would we correct it? And then that will be the basis on how we move forward. These 5 years, every 5 years, pretending that you are going to, it is not taking us anywhere. So let us concentrate on speaking to each other. We are not talking to each other. We are not. People are on their own. Everybody is on their own. When we talk to each other, we are just shouting at each other.
Not talking.
Not talking. So
listening.
No, we're listening. So a national dialogue which brings the people together and they speak genuinely. and it is composed of people reached out genuinely, not for political advantage, is the way forward. That's my parting view.
Okay. Our viewers, keep it Alternative Digital. Some other time we shall of course ask senior citizen Wandera to also give us more time, maybe on a lengthy show, most likely a lengthy show or a morning show, so that he can also elaborate and then respond to your comments. Keep it digital. My name is Norman.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.